Have you ever stood at the edge of a cornfield at night? The sun goes down. The world, it just changes. The tall stalks of corn stand like a silent army, their leaves rustling in the breeze. It sounds like whispers, doesn't it? As if the field is telling secrets just for you. People say cornfields are just farms, places where food grows. But when the moon is high and the only light is a sliver of silver, they become something else entirely. They become places of shadow and mystery, where the normal rules of the world seem to bend and break. They create a maze, a labyrinth of green and gold that stretches for miles. It's easy to get lost in there, even in the daylight. At night, it's almost a guarantee. Every rustle sounds like footsteps following you. You see shapes in the dark, watching you with unseen eyes. These aren't just spooky tales. They are warnings. Our first story comes from rural Ohio, from a teenager named Liam. He lived on a farm that had been in his family for over 100 years. Every autumn, his father would put up a scarecrow in the biggest cornfield. It was an old tradition. Old clothes stuffed with straw, a burlap sack for a head, crooked, painted-on eyes, a jagged, painted smile. Liam always hated it. He felt like it was watching him whenever he was near the field. One October evening, bored and restless, his friends dared him, go out to the scarecrow and take its hat. He didn't want to look like a coward. Armed with a weak flashlight, he accepted. The sky turned deep purple, a light fog rolling in. Tall corn stalks looked like ghostly figures. Liam walked into the corn, his friends' voices faded. All he could hear, dry leaves and his own heartbeat. He told himself, just straw and old clothes on a wooden cross. Yet deeper in, he felt watched. He reached it, hand shaking. He snatched the worn straw hat and turned to run. A sound behind him, soft, dragging, like straw across dirt. He froze. He slowly pointed the flashlight back at the post. The post was empty. The scarecrow was gone. He swept the light. At the edge of the rows, the scarecrow turned its burlap head to look at him, then vanished. He never found it again. In the morning, his father found the hat and placed it back on the empty post. After that night, Liam was never the same. He avoided the cornfield completely, even during the day. He started having nightmares. The scarecrow with its painted smile at the foot of his bed, just watching without moving. He tried to tell his parents. He tried to tell his friends. They didn't believe him. They laughed it off. A week later, tools went missing, then reappeared in strange places. Animals in the barn were spooked at night. Liam knew better. He watched the edge of the rows, catching flickers of a tall, thin shadow, gone when he focused on it. One full moon night, he saw it clearly. A tall, lanky figure, perfectly still. It wore the scarecrow's old flannel and torn pants. Too far to see its face, but Liam knew. He ran outside, yelling into the night. As he got closer, the figure didn't move. It just stood there, waiting. 20 feet away, he shined the light. It wasn't a scarecrow. It was his father, standing completely still, wearing the scarecrow's clothes. His eyes were wide and empty, a jagged smile drawn in dirt, watching the house. Liam screamed his father's name. He blinked, like waking from a deep trance, and looked down, confused and scared. He had no memory of coming out, of moving tools, of leaving bed, waking with dirt under his nails. Something else had taken control while he slept. They found the burlap sack head staring from a workbench. They gathered everything and set it on fire. Smoke rose into the clear morning. They felt relief. That night, a soft dragging sound. He crept to the window. A taller, thinner figure stood at the edge. It raised a hand and waved. The old wooden cross was gone. The field had made a new one. Our second story takes us to a small town in Iowa, surrounded by endless fields of corn. It's about a young couple, Maya and Ben, driving cross-country. They were tired, looking for a place to stop. They saw a sign for Havenwood, a town not on their map, and turned onto a smaller dirt road, deeper into the corn. The town looked old, well-kept, and strangely empty of adults. As they drove the main street, only children watched them, faces serious, eyes cold and watchful. They tried to leave, but every street led back to the square. Their GPS failed, no cell service. They were trapped. As darkness fell, the children slowly gathered, blocking the way. Ben rolled down the window. The older boy said, "You shouldn't have come here. The harvest is tonight." The words sent a shiver down their spines. The boy didn't answer their questions. He only pointed toward the corn. A path opened. With no other choice, they drove into the field. The moment their car entered, a low, humming chant rose from behind. They drove and drove, the path twisting like a maze. In their headlights, tiny dolls of husks and twine hung from the stalks like little people. Then the engine sputtered and died. Stranded in the middle of a massive field, the chanting grew closer. The fog thickened, rustling all around. Small figures moving between the rows, children, emerging pale in the moonlight, pressing their hands against the windows. Then the humming stopped. A little girl's voice whispered beside Maya's window. "He is pleased with the offering." Maya and Ben were trapped, surrounded by silent children. As one, the children turned to look deeper into the field. They were waiting for something, or someone. A low rumbling started deep within the rows, vibrating through the car. The stalks began to sway, though there was no wind. The children stepped back, heads bowed as if in prayer. Maya and Ben later said they saw a massive shadow moving through the corn. Not solid, more a darker piece of night. So large it bent the stalks as it passed. They felt its presence. Immense power, ancient hunger. The rumbling faded away. The children stayed bowed until silence returned. At sunrise, they were gone. The car started. They found the main highway with ease. They never looked back. Hours later, a gas station attendant asked about the dozens of tiny, muddy handprints all over their car. On the back window in the dust was a single, perfect corn husk doll. They tried to find Havenwood on a map. It didn't exist, no record anywhere. As if the town and the children were a dream. But they knew it was real, because the corn remembers, it watches, it whispers. Our final story is a short but deeply unsettling one, a local legend from rural Nebraska. A truck driver named Gary had driven these roads for 30 years. One harvest moon night changed everything. In his headlights stood a young woman in an old-fashioned dress holding a small suitcase. She said she needed a ride to the next town. He hesitated, then agreed. She smiled, small, sad, and stared into the corn. Something was odd. She was cold to the touch, and didn't seem to be breathing.
"You have to stop here. They're waiting for me."
Then, she was gone. The door hadn't opened. Only her small old suitcase remained. He opened it, half expecting the worst. It was empty, except for corn silk and dried husks. He threw the suitcase into the field and sped away. He never drove that route at night again. At a truck stop, an old-timer told of a young woman who vanished a century ago, returning each harvest moon to lure someone into the corn to take her place. These stories from Ohio, Iowa, Nebraska are just a few whispers from the fields.